We are doing a strength and dex build now, yeah. I used to be doing an int build, but I've given up. It seemed like whatever I ran into, it was like, oh, this boss is immune to magic. Okay, thank you, lovely. So I gave up. And now we're doing basic for a while. Did he actually die? No, he's still there. So, I killed Folia, apparently. What level am I? So we're playing the base game. This isn't New Game Plus. 170. Went up a bit. Huh. I started at 159. No. At 149. I started at 149. So we've gone up like 20. Since I started playing the DLC. You might like golden milk. Maybe. What do you mean by works well? Do you mean like flavor-wise? I don't know the next place I should go, because I don't think... DLC has been tough but fun. Yeah, my thoughts exactly. I don't know if I meant to drink the juice more. Have you done the secret here? Okay, so I've had very conflicting direction. I've accidentally killed this guy because I kept telling him Mikola's whatever it is, I don't know. Right? I can't remember how many times I drank this, but there was one time after I drank it, I think it was like 4 times. Did I get teleported? I don't think I got teleported. It was like, it went to a black screen. And then there was dialogue. But then it just respawned me again. And then I went to get this guy to bring him here. It's just every time I do this, I have to add another one to the counter. But I swear there's meant to be more dialogue. People were being very vague with what I was meant to do. And you know what this game is like, it doesn't tell you what to do. It's max 6. Okay. I think I've done 4. Hey, Elder. Do you remember this bit? Yeah, I don't know if I've already done it. Is that it? Is that what I meant to wait for? I'm on 5. Oh, okay. So there's one more. I thought there was more to it, but people were like, no, you're done. No, I haven't fight Mesmer yet. People do like to spoil. The last main story boss I've done is Lanala. Lanala? Lanala. What was her name again? You must kill Mikula. Okay. That's different. Grant him forgiveness. It might be a lot of work to you. It might be a lot of work for you, yeah. Oh, okay, that's the last one. Okay. Well, I guess that counts as another death, technically. So, she has no more dialogue, that's it? Renala, that's it. Okay, sorry. I was trying to remember. That's the last main story boss I've done. Okay, what's the pole for? You don't even know what boss I'm doing next. God damn it. I don't even know what boss I'm doing next. What if I decide to go do the dragons again? What am I deciding to do? I haven't really explored this bit. Oh, this isn't a good point to teleport to. Waiting is necessary. I could add text saying no spoilers. It's like backseating I don't mind, but spoilers I'm kind of iffy with. And it's less so about me, but I think it's more so about other people as well. I think I'm not that strict about it. Hey, Saucy. Because see, the thing about me is I forget things very easily. If I try to not commit something to memory, it's gone. Right, so I'm gonna go explore this area in general because I have not. You don't know anything. Yeah, that's fair. Well, that's the thing. It's hard for, like... If you don't know, you don't know. I think the thing that I don't like as a spoiler is if I'm doing a boss and then someone says, like, you know, because sometimes after you do the first health bar, there's a second stage. I hate knowing that there's a second stage in a boss. Phases is fine, but knowing that there's a second stage, that does annoy me. Because then it's kind of like that experience has been taken away. I'm streaming this early because Smite 2 Alpha weekend. No! Alright, finally. I wonder how to get up there. You assume the bosses have 3 stages. They typically have 2. Like, normally they have 2 anyway. Like 2 phases. Stages! When I say stages, I'm saying like... Freaking hell. These guys are lovely. I just wanted to walk around. I need to go to Ballarat? Oh, okay. I was exploring this area because I haven't done much of it. Alright, let's go back. Ballarat. I look lovely today. Thank you. Guess what? I'm getting a haircut tomorrow. Hey, Josh. Welcome back. Haircut tomorrow. Haircut tomorrow. Woo! Okay. Let's Ballarat. LV map menu? No. No, I'm not donating my hair. I'm not getting that much cut off. I don't know where Ballarat is. The Dancing Lion place. Okay. This area? No. this area. Hello, Moxie. I'm probably only getting this much. There was a lady to talk to, wasn't there? I can't remember where she was. Would you get a different color hair? No, my hair doesn't hold color very well. I've tried. I used to have blonde hair, actually. And that was fun. I had blonde hair for maybe 2 years, but it was a lot of effort. And my hair, like, you know how blonde hair, it sometimes goes a bit yellowish or goldish? My hair does that very, very strongly. So there's a lot of upkeep, so I gave up. And once I tried purple, washed out immediately. Like, within a week, it was gone. It looks so bad. Okay, should I go back to the dancing line? No, it's too much upkeep. It, like, if you were to think about that, I've gone to a hair, like, the last time I went to a hairdresser was, like, over 2 years ago. Why would I add that much work for myself? No. Where is that lady that insulted me? Oh, here. I wanted to see if she had more dialogue. Then go through the door. Here. Okay, I will do, and then turn left. And then turn right, and then turn left, and then turn right. She's not talking to me at all. Alright, cool. Then turn right and then turn left. Dude, that is like the most convoluted thing. I saw my helmet on. Oh my god, really? This game really does not hold your hand, it's insane. Yeah, I will, okay. I will, 1 second. Oh. That's crazy.
Oh, such a joy.
Scent?
Scent again. Does a sculpted keeper stand before me? Oh, as I felt the sacred beast's essence fade, a great anxiety welled up within. Forgive this old woman her foolish fears. 'Tis such relief I cannot express. After an eternity of the mind, our voices have at last reached the heavens, as evinced by thy gracious arrival. Oh, oh, oh.
She likes me a lot better like this.
I implore, vessel.
Oh, I don't really want to kill her.
Have my son.
What if she's important?
And dance thy dance of beauteous color. Take vengeance upon Mesmerity's lot. They who betrayed us, they who burned us. Let them face in thy wrath their just deserts. My song will I sing in service to thee.
Oh, thank you. She gave me a thing. Yeah. You put on the lion face.
Channel thy color into the most resplendent of dances.
I should have known.
My
She
song
was
will I
like
sing
insulting me when I was a
in
tarnished.
service to thee.
The horned quest line.
O horn-decked beast from higher sphere delivered, we beg of thee.
She's still talking.
Dance and cavort, dance and cavort. Cleanse all that thou wilt, cruelty, woe, and those who plague the tower. Cleanse away the strumpet's vile progeny.
So I did see her before this boss.
Resplendent of dances, my song will I sing in service to thee.
And she like insults you.
Okay.
Okay.
My song.
I see.
O horn-decked
So now she just sings a song. Right, okay. Bell, right. Then go through the door. Then go through the door. I'm going to assume it's this door. And then turn left. Wait, not this door? This door? Oh, really? Okay. Go straight. Oop. And then turn right. And then turn left. I feel like I have to stop now, ow. Oh, turn right, okay. I just wanted that item. Do I go down here? Yeah, it's the only way to go. And then go down. Have I not been here? I've been here. I didn't open... This thing's locked. Let's find the key. Okay, right. Great. Lovely. This feels like a boss that I'm not gonna want to play. It's the deep well key? Okay. Let's find the deep well key. Well, if I have it, then why is it locked? Usually if something's locked and you have the key, it just opens it. Yeah, that's just normally how it works. Just wondering where it would be. I don't know where I haven't gone. Go back to the other bonfire. Oh, okay. What's that one called? Bonfire. Where all the birds are? Yeah, I know where all the birds are. Okay. Was it this one? No, because you said the other one. I'll just find the birds. It's not here. That's in the theatre. Main gate. Private altar. That one. Yeah. Is it? Isn't it? Oh, the birds are up there. Okay. I would have sworn it was easier. I don't remember having to go through this guy. Not that way. Huh. This is like where you first go in this area. Up the ladder. There's a ladder. There's a ladder. In the room. There's a ladder in the room. Okay. Where is the room? Whoop! This room. Okay, in there. Yeah, sounds good. Am I still getting chased? I have been up here before. Ow. Great, now he's climbing. Kill all the birds. Isn't there a closer spawn point? I remember running in to do these birds a couple of times. Yeah, that's what I thought. Rooftop on the corner. No, I forgot I saw something. Right, meanwhile. Like here? Oh. Like there, maybe? Go back. Where do you want me to go down? Go down this way? Trying to see the item. But, oh, there is a thing here. Uh-huh. Ah, the key. Okay, we got the key. I have not seen that before. Right, excellent. Now I run back. Now I'm thinking I have to go back here. Alright, we got the key. Why is it always sadness? Don't worry, be happy. Right. Right again. This is gonna be terrible, isn't it? I'm gonna hate this. This way. Open. Ah, that's a big open area. I wonder why that is. Oh, poison. So there is a poison swamp. Naturally, it's in the sewer. Makes sense. There are a lot of items in this area, really? Let's run. Okay, I'll avoid rolling. What in the spam? Hello, we invite you to join our stock trading group. Yeah, that's what I want. Hell yeah, sign us up. I'm hoping it gets flagged as spam soon. Sometimes, like, spam comes through and then, like, a couple minutes later it'll get flagged. I did see an item over here. Ah, smithing stone. Running faster doesn't build up faster, does it? Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. I do have flame cleanse me. I wonder what I'm afraid of. Ah, no, horsey. I felt my controller vibrate, and I knew. Oh dear. This is gross. Okay. Ow. Oh, we're doing well. No. What's the best way to I'm trying to switch. No, that's... I have to hit triangle and then that. Okay. And then I hit this. Far out. It takes me too long to use it because I don't use it on the fly. Why is it still going up? Wait, he's still attacking me here. It's feels troll. What if I can cheese it? Can I? Oh, I rolled in poison. Oh, what? I feel cheated. Okay, that's not good. Any nice large areas? Alright, rolling. I'm trying to find a nice area to hang out. I gotta stop rolling. But I don't think there is one. Yeah. Yeah. Yep. Didn't understand what was happening. Where is it? Oh, I didn't know where the thing was. Heal. Just hit him. Oh, lovely. Oh, I'm out of mana. Let's try. That was exciting. I gotta do the other one. That was in that swamp that's not poison. It's mana. It's a Mari word? Is it? No, I rolled. Silly. Mana? This nose. I have an accent to contend with. Alright. See if we can find more stuff, I guess. You're Aussie too. And do you not just say mana? Your nan's Murray. Yeah, so my fiance. And I cannot pronounce anything. And I just accepted that. Is this just a... What is the point of this area? More muzzies. What if there's another one? It wouldn't surprise me if they just put another one in here. Who the hell spat at me? I'm low on the Estus flask. It keeps vomiting and it's kind of gross. Oh, it's one of those guys over there. That's unusual. Like how they come in packs. They are worse in packs. Again, the poison. Oh. Oh. No! Great. Why doesn't it, like, interrupt them? No. Ah, I have to run back that way. I guess. Damn it. Oh, I was fighting him with one hand. That probably did not help. To the right. I would have been pretty happy avoiding this whole bit. It's not even important to the story, is it? Yeah, I died to a creep. I beat the boss. I was out of Estus flasks. Let's get it going, run back. Oh shit. That's what you deserve. Feels personal. I agree. Wrong button. Grab these guys first. Ow. Oh, they like eat the stuff and then shoot at you? Ugh. Heal. Yeah. Heal. Heal. Okay. Why does he have to fight me now? Okay. And then... Let me just pick up my stuff, because I'm worried about that stuff too. Okay, we'll grab that. Yeah, the one with the dress I've noticed. What? These guys do suck. Oh my gosh. Stay close to them? Oh, okay. It's no Monster Hunter. Yeah. Monster Hunter fans. I haven't been up there, have I? Takes you back to the start. Okay, good, good. It's just not for anything else we've missed. Yeah. We've come back round. I did remember this locked door. Yeah. Oh, well, that's that area. Where was I before? Oh yeah, at the top. I thought maybe this was going to answer this bit. It did not. There is one here, I think. Where was it? I remember there being another one of those, lizard things somewhere. And then I left it. Why do I need to go back to the starting ruins? Starting ruins. Is there a way to get the list? Sites of Grace. Why? Oh, my camera is frozen. There's always got to be something. Hello. If it freezes, just let me know. Daily Spirit Bell hate comment. Oh, shame. The starting rounds, okay. I'm just very focused, I know. Oh wait, I have to click back on the game. Starting rounds. Is that the name of it? It's the first Grace. You know, I don't... Gravesite Plain? Yeah. Don't actually know where that is anymore. Alright, what have I missed? Go to the town. Yeehaw. To the top of the town? Am I climbing the town? I have not been up here actually. Ooh, a chest. A blade of mercy? Oh, it sounds like it probably labeled it as a talisman. I didn't notice. Blade of Mercy, where is it? Raises attack power after each critical hit. Sounds alright. And a critical hit, does that mean like when you do the stabby thing? What have I clicked at the moment? I'll keep the fence thing on for now. Alright. Is it honey? A little bit. It's turmeric. I've had a bit of an upset, well, just like, what do I call it? Reflux. Yeah. So, use double turtle. I use the turtle sometimes. The stamina one. Oop. It's just not necessary, in my opinion, at the moment. Honey will help the stomach, really? I have honey so many times a day, don't worry. We on top of that. Been having so much tea. Okay. I'll go back to whatever I was doing. Yeah, instant stamina regen. I get you. I do genuinely, I do use it sometimes. Like, it's one of my, like, whatever, I'll use it. Type of talismans, I guess. Alright, I don't think I've been up here. I cannot remember. Maybe I did, because there's this, and I haven't been in there yet, it seems. Hmm. You really want me to run the music? What the hell's going on here? I am being attacked. Oh no, I'm not being attacked. Oh, that missed. Unfortunate. Ouch. one of those places where I can just sit here and get free runes without doing anything. I swear, these guys are worth a decent amount. The guys that are pretty easy to fight. I misjudged the range of that move. What if there's like a big boss of that guy? Oh, this guy is bigger. It's so much harder. God damn. Ow. That's what I get for talking him. How is he so fast? I think it's just an OP one. Kinda crazy. Oh, there's a item up here. This is the end of the area, isn't it? Alright. Oh, there's even more. Go back to central location. The central castle. Why is that? The important castle. Oh, I see. I might try and level up for a bit. Because we're almost there. There's a cave you should do. There is a cave up here. That I have marked on my map and I haven't done it yet. What sword is that? This is called the Dragon Hunter Great Katana. It is in the DLC. It's somewhere in like the bottom right of the map. It's about to kill that squirrel for some reason. Yeah, it is kind of like edgy. I was using the moonlight. What was it called? It was a Rani sword, and I thought that was a really nice looking sword. That's what I was using before this one. Oh wait, there's one behind me. I don't know how much I like the stabs, like that one. I think I need 200k to level up. Do I have the Rune's Grace? The more? Rune's Grace? I will look. Ruins, that's what you're saying. Alright, maybe I'll just go back and I'll just pop some stuff. And then I'll move on. I have the Asian Ruins Grace. If you look slightly south, there's a little cave you can see on the map. Okay. So this is the skill. You can hold it for a bigger attack, or you can just like press it. That's the heavy attack. That's the regular attack. Yeah, that's it. It's not a big moveset. I think it's meant to be good for killing dragons. Right, leveling up. That's what we're doing. Okay, so we need like 200. Yes. I don't have the grace? Okay, I'm sorry. Very, very sorry. I prefer simpler swords, to be fair. I thought I was gonna just like rune my way up there, but... I need so many. Should I kill a few more things? You found out something amazing yesterday? Like what? You can sell them at a merchant. Do you get more for it? For the same value? So then what's the point of selling? Wait, where is it? Oh yeah, that's right. Wait, I have to look at them one by one. And I'm also pretty bad at the math thing. I think, do I have enough? No, I need another 400. Surely this is enough. Oh, you're gonna be a dad! How exciting! Ooh! But which was more the exciting news? Oh. Yeah, but the ring. Alright, so, to the right of High Road Cross. Which is... somewhere around here. No, it's not. Oh wait, I remember where it is. It's... yeah, to the right of High Road Cross. You have a little area that's unexplored. Do I? Okay. Is it where those little houses are? Oh, thank you for the rose. Appreciate it. I don't think I remember being here. I might have to go down. That was a thing here. Hello, Alexios. I promise I've gotten better since. I feel like the last time you were watching me, I was flailing about. This sort of reminds you about Sekiro a little bit. I guess because of the katana? Alright, let's talk to this guy. Does he not talk? I guess not. Hold at that grace for a second. Oh no, now I need to hold at it. Alright. Oh. I need to do an emote. Oh. I thought maybe I had to wear another mask. What are the subtitles are you talking about on Twitch? They don't do very good. May the best win. How do I do them? Not that button. Let me just do this to make sure no one's coming after me. Yeah, so I used to have a really good closed captions plugin. And then I had to update my OBS, and that closed captions plugin no longer works. So now I have the bad one back. Yeah, I know, I'm sorry. You can get rid of it. I don't think it understands my accent at all. I don't... As strong of an accent I have. It's something like underwear and things. Oh my god, there's pretty words in my mouth. Oh, here are the gestures. How do you do them? No. May the best win. Bow away, point forwards. Wrong one. Switch. May the best win. A lot of Americans do say they can't understand Aussies. Really? What's wrong with the way we talk? I used to think Australian accent was the correct accent when I was a kid. It was funny. I made the best win. There it is. Oh, I didn't click on it. Oh, okay. Hold on. This one. Okay. Oh. Oh no. Where are we? Oh, he's fighting me! That's crazy! What a crazy boss! Oh no, I'm getting shot at. Okay. Americans don't understand how we say use heaps. Oh, but yeah, there's a lot of words I use that I then realize it's not a common words across, like, I don't know, other countries. Ow. I am trying to... Oh, he's like... What's the word? Using Kung Fu or something. Oh, that missed? Ow. Okay. My sword's too strong. Amon, I see. Now what? This is the close, I don't know what you call it, the melee combat thing, isn't it? He was kind of crazy for a second, yeah, true. Wear the hat. Why? That doesn't suit my aesthetic at all. A hat looks true Aussie. Yeah, okay. Is that just for that? Let me see if I've missed anything else here then. Oh, I didn't touch the cross. Let's do that real quick. So that I can not understand the text. There we go. Yeah, but it's not a hat I would wear. Go to the cave. Oh, it's south of this grace, okay. I thought it was just to fight that guy. South, west, south, this way. You can see it on the map. So it's not this one. There's another one. Question mark? Oh, it is that one, okay. I think I've done it. Because otherwise I would have marked it. How do you know you've done a cave or not? I normally mark it if I haven't done it. Yeah, we've done it. Yeah. Oh, yeah! Same. That can be hard, yes. I do struggle with accents. 100%, but I don't know how much of that is me just being deaf. So that when someone is speaking to me and they're speaking quietly and in an accent, oh boy. And then I feel bad because I think, like, I'm worried that they think I'm just not understanding them because they have an accent, but most of the time I just don't. I can't hear them. You always mark it with a skull once you've done the boss? Interesting. I mark it, if I come across a boss or something and then I think I'm gonna do this later, I mark it. So I mark them after, no, when I need to do it. Yeah, most of the time when you get used to the way they talk, it works out. So I go to the Shadow Manor. Is that this thing? No, that's Castle Anasis. Water Reprimand. Main Gate Plaza Grace. Some people have a hard time with accents, some don't, depending on your experience with foreign language. But I also know how to speak Portuguese. I don't think it's helped me out a ton. Not necessarily. I might have better, like, maybe it's easier for me to understand people with an accent that's like Portuguese, Spanish, or Italian, like those kinds, because I feel like they all have similar accents when they're speaking English, but other than that, like, hell no. I think it's just because I can't hear people. Is this a Shadow Keep? Wrong castle. Well, you said here! And then you said the main castle, so I thought the main castle was this one. You literally said Main Gate Plaza Grace. Main Gate Cross. Is there one called Main Gate Plaza? You're saying Shadowkeep, but I don't know where that is. I don't remember the names of these places. Main Gate Cross. I don't think I have the Shadowkeep. I don't think I have Main Gate Plaza. I don't. I just have main gate cross. That's why I assumed it was that one. I know. Thanks, muffins. You prefer accents to American? Oh, okay. The golden hippogriffs. What do you mean you make it simple for you? I don't have the one that you said. I could also just explore on my own. Yeah, I did. I killed the hippo, but where was the hippo? Up here. Oh, there's a shadow keep. Oh my god, it's up here. How come I couldn't find it when I was scrolling through? Dude, this map's already too big for me. I didn't... When you were saying the shadow keep, I looked at every other castle, and I'm not even kidding. I thought I hovered over that one. I done the hippo. I forgot about the hippo, actually. Very forgetful boss. Why are we here? Go to the left. Right. I walked through here a few times. There's gotta be a further thingo. We cannot keep having all these interruptions. Oh, I have done the line, didn't I? You scream a little bit and say yo a lot. Australians? They say yo? I've been here, I just haven't like I've explored most of this floor and then I left. I think. I could be wrong. Oh, Americans, right, okay. It's like I don't remember Australians saying yo all the time. Have I been done? There's an item over there I haven't got. Oh, there's a pot. Fun about these. How could I? Friend? Friend? Ooh. I know. You're telling me this is a wall? Every time they do something like this in the design, just for us to whack at it and be met with no secret room. What's that? What's that? I think I could hit through the wall like them. Maybe you have to whack it 1,000 times. That seems excessive. Ow. A lot of pots down there. Oh, that one's like walking upside down. That one looks weird. Okay. Oh. Oh wait, I didn't level up my blessing. I wasn't sure if I had another. Damn it. Are these what's in the pots this whole time? I need a serious answer. This is what's in the pots this whole time? That's terrifying. This is not the round table area, no. Yeah, it's just a similar style of building. Why is it? Oh, it's like just not dead. Hot dwellers, you wonder if they're stoned or what. Don't know what that means. I just refuse to believe that Alexander looked like that. This is like their hospital or something. It's just weird because when you explode one of these, you don't get that. Oh yeah, I'm sure there's something about that big one. Oh. Yeah, big fleshy hermit crabs, literally. The Iris of Grace? Oh, I didn't mean like it was a boss. Necessarily. I meant like it looks like it's a big one. I don't know. I don't know how else to explain it. Like that other thing that I fought. I can't remember what I don't know what they're called. Alright. What if there is a boss version of these? No, it's a Grace. You really need more. Rest till morning, it's scary going at night. Seriously? I don't like that. Okay, so there's the big doors. And then there's the door for you. It's looking out for me, man. I'm wondering what's gonna happen then. Yeah, we could have gone at night. And you would have had more content. Maybe. Good luck, have fun. Oh no. This is the boss. There's always a boss on bridges. Hello. Have I done Mesmer yet? No. Why is it raining fire? Oh, it's literally raining fire. Okay. You know, I thought that was a crazy sentence. There's no fire buildup. Oh my god, is it that person over there? What the hell's this? See you later, Alexius. I hope you have a good night. Oh, it's one of these. Oh, how did I not hit it there at all? God damn it. Well, that thing sucks. So I'm standing up today because I got tired of sitting down like every day, and I try it at night. Yeah, I'm trying to see what makes this scary. I guess like the bats are creepier, or maybe there's just more to it. Oh. Just gonna keep on running. Ow. Alright, this is dumb. I hate this. What a dumb move. Oh. Damn, Lance. Is your finger tired yet? Oh. I don't... Why do I struggle with this? No. Okay, we're gonna jump into a heavy attack. Nope. Oh. Finally. God damn, that almost used all my health bar. My health things. And you get rain of fire. Okay. That is, I'm sure, kind of cool for some people. It is a cool move if you could just rain fire. I don't know how effective it would be. No, you're not distracting me. I just thought it was funny. another grace. So that was a whole thing, the bridge. Ancient ruins of Raw. Oh, I haven't been here yet. Alright, lovely. Oh, I haven't rested. You're right. I should have rested. I had like no thingers. Time for a lot of this. Well, we're already up to 350 almost. He's leading me to the frenzied forest, isn't he? Oh, there's a elevator here. By that elevator, well, I'm gonna go down it. It's kind of like inconspicuous, like it's in between all these ruins. Oh, hello, buddy. Lever, try left. I'm sorry. Dong ahead, seek behind. Okay, let's go this way then. That message has so many layers to it. But surely there was something over there. I am nowhere close. This place is a maze. That's exciting. I love mazes. Is that another hippo? Necessary item ahead, but be wary of hippo. How is there another one? I thought that was like a main boss. There's two. Wow, view. Alright, we'll deal with the boss later. It just makes it less special when there's more than one. is like the red wolf. I'm gonna go back in and seek the dong. See if there's anything there. The dung, like poop. Nothing wrong with the word poo, is there? Yeah, it's a dragon katana. Well. Didn't reach. Oh! The fuck was that? Alright, well that was it. That's all that's in that corner. Can see if there's anything more up top, but then like I feel like I'm gonna have to go do the hypo. You might be able to run past it, honestly. But let me make sure I haven't missed anything. On the first level. That's where you come out of. Right. This place doesn't show up on the map. I guess you just jump down onto that? Oh, no. God damn it. Bondstone. And a cookbook. For all that crafting I do. Does anyone do crafting in this game? Hang on, are you... A secret wall. You do? Because I never have. Oh, there was another one. There's another one. I do not want to. Oh wow. One hit. Find it interesting that Germania is telling me where to go. And then I go there and he's going, oh my god, I didn't see that. Like, kind of troll. Hang on. I am struggling. Oh, seriously? Still? Hit! Maybe I do need that stamina turtle. Yeah, well, I mean, it makes me worried that this place is so big that you're just missing stuff. You can go up there. You can kill this guy. There's a loot thing. Oh wait, no, it only loots if it's sparkling, isn't it? I think so. This one's all loot. Spirit calculus. Excuse me? Oh, there's another hole here. Ow! Who knew they could throw the pots? Open that door. Wait, what door? I missed a door. Here, this is a door. Yeah, it didn't really look like a door, hey. Are these snails? Oh, okay. Oh no, I see a wall. No, like... wind? You meant to jump. I think. I don't think you are, because there's no open ceiling. No, but you're meant to jump. Okay. Goodness me. How does this place keep going? Ow. No, there's full damage. It just takes a bit. Like it's a long... You're allowed a pretty long jump. And I think your horse can withstand more than you can. Well, yeah, true. I also fell into a wind tunnel there. Woo! Ooh, a fragment! That was handy. Oh, one of these. No! You grabbed me. Okay. Oh, I got his back. Okay, that's nice. And then I couldn't hit him afterwards. I hate this guy so much. I am trying to not. Shoot. I can't hit him. He moves so much. Holy hell. I am trying to go! Ugh, I hate him. I was actually trying to summon my horse and it's so hard to do. Yeah, I don't know, I hate those. Those are probably my least favorite, just regular enemies, to be honest. They do so much. Alright, so I went this way. Yeah, well, I just gotta ride back. Turn to the right. He doesn't give you any time to heal, and half of my attacks wouldn't even land. Which was frustrating. Oh, I haven't gone through that hole yet. To go through that hole. Alright, then we jumped down here. And then this way. And... oh wait, I already fought that guy. Where's my stuff? Here. Well, he's just gonna come out and chase me again. Dude, why can you reach me? Wait, we gone around a circle. Right? Yeah, we did. Okay. That's where that ends up. And then if we go here... There was some stairs that I didn't take. Try to remember where those stairs were. Was it through the hole? Well, it had to be. You can go through the hole to the left and it leads you back to the same place, by the way. Yeah, you don't have to take the hole to get there. I don't know what I was imagining. So I can go forward. What a biatch. Who's magicking me? Something is magicking me. That thing, it looks like it sucks. Oh, there's another one. Great. I love it when they double team. What? Stab it up! Maybe I do need that turtle thing. I do now. There is way too much to this place. How's there another scorpion? Oh my god. The giant emote. Is this mosquito bad? You like turtles? Same. Is there another... Grace here? I want to level up soon. Soon, TM. Go back inside? Why? Did I not do everything? Fight the little dancey thing? Okay. That means I have to actually fight the dancey thing. Ah. That's what was magicking this guy. Not the dancey thing. I think it's the dancey thing. To the right, where? But this is how I came inside. This is how I came to her. Okay. Right. Back down here. Down to the end and turn left. There's an item up there. These things suck. Oh, okay, and then he fell down. Cool. That was pretty worth. Grab the grace. Where's the grace? To the left. The grate is to the left, I assume. I think it's over there. Ancient runes, cross message. Message left by Dryleaf Dean addressed to kindred spirits who also pursue Michaela's trail. We found the sealing tree just ahead, but if we are to burn it, we need proper kindling. That of Sir Messimer. I could probably level up my blessing. Surely by this point. Yeah. Okay, I also want to level up before I do any of that. I need so much more than I normally do. Should use that one maybe. That's not enough. That's almost enough, but it's not enough. Not yet. Bloody hell, you're joking. This is actually so time-consuming. Okay. 500k, good job. Well, I care. Alright, this guy, huh? This guy. Big hammer man. He has a very similar armor set to what I was using before. You know, my sword doesn't help him. Doesn't help this fight very much. We should have a prediction. What is that? Is he a horse? What was that? Quite a hammer indeed. No. Oh, I was lucky. I'm already out of health. Okay. That's cool. He's a flower. Did you know that he's a flower? and a horse. Quite the moveset. You did know that's good. Good on you. What the hell? Alright, oh no, I need to change my flask so I can have another health. We're not even using this anymore. Okay. Nope, wrong way. This way. Oh, your runes end up here. I think. It's handy. Wish I could, like, V-poison. Is it a horse? No, it's not a horse. It's something else. I rolled too early. We rolled too much. Okay, cool. I've got a hammer and a helmet to suit the other half of that outfit. I think I missed anything in here. We're still gonna go back to that hippo. That hippo 2. It's probably totally optional. I didn't miss anything, did I? No, fuck it. No, I killed him. No, I still remember the hippo. Oh, right, the first one I forgot about. Yeah, I killed him. I literally just killed him. Yeah, thanks. It was second go. I feel like I'm trolling you, but I'm not. Seriously, I totally just got him. Hello. He's gone. Oh wait, he wasn't on that one, he was on that one. I think I'm having less troubles with the sword in general. Plateau! I love that word, I don't know what it means when I'm on the bridge. Oh, okay. I don't know, Cross, I don't know what to say, how to say your name. Oh, I might rust first. Oh, another one of those guys! Woohoo! Don't get hit by the Kamakeha. I don't know what that means. Is he shooting at me? He is. Holy hell. Okay, rolling didn't work. What are you meant to do? Honestly. I'm gonna change the color of my lights. And I'm also gonna mark this as spam, because it still has it. I know you told me, and when I saw it coming, I was just like, I don't think I could do anything about it. Take two. Oh. Okay, that didn't work. Exactly, how do you evade that? I don't know. I thought maybe if I was to like, maybe if you run one way and then you run the other. Or maybe you just can't cross it. It's taking its time. I wonder what's in here. Gravity with the assist. Mistakes were made. Ow. How about... How much do I do on now? I feel like I do so little. Look at that. Is it? Am I meant to do so little? You wouldn't fight him if I were you. Why is that? Is he meant to help me with something else? Where's the crit? I died. Ah, shoot. The horse is already dead. Oh! Almost. Maybe if I use the heavy... I don't think that's doing much different either. I barely do anything! I'll leave it for another time. That's crazy. I guess I'll ignore him for a bit. Necessary. Try necessary item. Try necessary item. Do I have an owl item? I thought maybe here, but not here. I just missed it. Oh. Oh, lovely. Pick up my stuff again, although... Sound is terrifying. Yep. This horse is so weak. Oh, it gave me nothing. Okay. Cool, cool, cool. He would be a good farm thing, because, like, if he kills everything in his path. Take a look off the ledge. What am I meant to find off the ledge? I haven't been over there, I don't think. Oh, I can't open the map. Oh shoot. Knocking down the trees! You want me to get shot by the big guy, wow. Well, I was trying to see what area this is. And it's apparently that zone. I don't think I've been there yet. It looks very ominous. Alright, how do we get up the top so you can go down? I think that's what you need to go there. Probably this way. But should I go do the hippo first? Where was that? Ravine North, maybe? Okay, I'll worry about that later. Is it here? No. I'm terrible with remembering the, like, names of stuff. This one. Yeah. Alright. So... come around here. this mean you have to go through this? Why did I get off the horse? Because it's not that long of a run back, but it is annoying. Maybe there's a stake. I don't know. Oh, you can fight it on your horse this time. Which, I don't know if that helps you, but... It's also not golden. That does a lot of damage. It's just a big guy. I guess this one doesn't have any electricity stuff. Oh, it does give you a fragment though, so that's pretty handy. Yeah, but there was no phase 2, that's the thing. It didn't have a, it wasn't a, it didn't give it a boss treatment. Nah. It was a weaker one, significantly weaker, but it gives you a fragment, so worth doing. Wait, oh my god, I thought there was a secret room, because it kept walking. Is that another guy to fight? Isn't that, yeah, that's where the last, Grace was. Here. And down here. There's another guy. Can I jump? No. You have to try. I don't know how to end up down there. Maybe I just gotta go back to the other one and come back to it. I should have gotten my stuff back. Why didn't I do that? Oh. I thought it was that thing that I was fighting. Not the parts. Oh. Well, this is fun. Isn't it? Getting closer to what? Ooh, another fragrance. Okay. Oh, there's an elevator here. Elevador. Oh, is this the... This isn't the guy, is it? So I went up. Another elevator here. Maybe it's just the same kind of guy in that area and it's not that exciting. It's the same elevator. Oh my god, is it? That was another one. Oh! It's behind me, I was looking for him. What a troll. Bird. Bird move. Oh dear. No? Got his move there. He did. Handy. I'm trying to remember how did I get here. Did you get his wings? No, I got his like little ranged attack. Love Blood Rock. She is here. Can I not be here actually? What is here? Go up and see for yourself. One can only hope it's a grace. Oh goodness me, it is a grace. Thank goodness. There's a boss here. I see. Try and remember what I skipped to get here. There's a fair bit that I did skip. Nothing here. I took a shortcut, did I? Aha! Another one. Beware of Scarlet Rot. First off, Scarlet Rot. Time for Edge. Edge? Ugh. I don't know what I was expecting. Two heads? No, it has got two heads. She's just in the middle of it. Only one head, actually, yeah. Oh, okay. I think I understand that comment now. The DLC is good. It's been really hard though. Good but difficult, you know? Okay. Oh, I healed, but I didn't heal. What the hell? I literally pressed the button and I wasn't doing anything. Alright, well. Interesting. I've done summons here and there. And by summons, like, the Tish thing. That's who I do. How do I play this without raging? I like games with a challenge. And I just think, you know, if other people can do it, I'm sure I can. Ah, cool, Scarlet Rot. I have to learn her moves. That does hit sometime. Okay. She doesn't seem like, what the hell was that, you know? Just more like she feels tough in general. I feel like it's gonna take time. Make sure you get hit by as many butterflies as possible. Would you power level need to be on par with the boss you fight? You literally don't know what level they have, to be honest. So you just pretty much need a level to whatever you think you need to be. The boss doesn't scale to your level, if that's the question you're asking. Yeah. I didn't do like a new game thing, I want just a regular. But I think it scales to your thing. Like it scales to your game. Anyway. Boluses? What's that? Goodness me. Okay. Yeah, I know. Yeah. But I have to learn the moves. Oh, they get rid of the effects. Oh, right. Yeah, I have Flame Cleanse Me. I feel like I'd rather use that instead. But I'm not gonna use any of that now. So I'd rather learn the boss first. I am a very, like, anti-consumable user because I don't do things within 5 tries. It just doesn't happen. Yeah, Elden Ring is very much a game where they're not telling you what to do. So it's not like they're telling you, oh, you need to be this level. They're very minimal on the information they give you. It's very cryptic. Okay. New move. Okay, that was 4 hits. That missed. Okay, that took too long. I rolled too early. Thank you. Yeah, I haven't played Tekken in a while, huh? It's been like 2 weeks. Gotta get back on it. I had a small session of Tekken last night. And I'm already feeling rusty. I don't know what the Skyforge is, but no spoilers, please. That sounds like a game. Isn't that a game? Yeah, it was. Right. Oh, I played for like 3 hours of Stardew Valley yesterday. I don't know what else to do with my leave time. But I feel like Stardew Valley is pretty good. Have you ever heard of the Skyforge game? There was an MMO called Skyforge. It's not very good now, don't play it. It's an MMO called Skyforge, and the whole premise was that you would be able to level up and make your character into a god in the game. Getting hit a lot. Ugh. Okay, there's a grab and then a stab. I don't know how this is going, to be honest. I can't tell if this is going worse or better than the horse on the guy on the horse. It feels more or less the same. I do a lot of damage if I was to use my skill. I haven't really tried to use a regular attack yet. I should try that. Oh, okay, I see. You're trying to play a little breaker. I feel like I don't know that much about this game yet. very easy to prank me. Dude, she, like, grabbed me. Oh, sorry, I didn't realize too late what was happening. That's the full hit, yeah. Oh, I might need to sit down. I'm worried I'm gonna accidentally turn off this monitor though. So I've been sticking it out. I'm gonna start standing up like a flamingo. Rolling through. All about learning the timers. Hey Hashi, it was a blue sword. I know, I ended up switching last stream. You gonna get serious about Romina? I don't know. I'm probably gonna stream for like another hour. Oh god, Hashi. The thumbnails are gonna kill me. I have so many videos to upload. And I've realized I don't have pictures for them. So it's just gonna be I don't know. Like, I might end up doing the same like I did with the other one, where I learn the boss and then I bring out Tish. Which I think is fine. Now, I haven't seen a single butterfly yet. Oh, we're out of hell. Naturally. When am I stuck in there? What am I meant to do? Try dodging its attacks. Oh, really? We're like at attempt 10. Thanks, Doctor. Most bosses in this takes you a long time. Ow. Wish there was time to heal. You first tried this boss, by the way. Thank you! Oh, I'm just so good! I did it first go! Damn it! Oh, okay. I don't want her sword, eh? It's a cool weapon. Ah. Well, we're doing better. How you been, Hashi? Are you already off work? I've had 2 weeks off for work, by the way. Can't wait to get back in on Monday. I know it's going to be chaos because I've seen my emails. Yeah, and then we're going to play Smite Alpha tonight on stream. You're doing the thing where you're trying to close out 2 items before you take leave, but they keep getting pushed back. The 2 items? Oh, I had a lot of leave racked up, Doctor. Because of the pandemic. I had so much in there. Yeah, I'm not at like 40 days or whatever it was anymore. That sounds like that sounds insane. I'm now at like 20 something. Do they allow you to take all your leaves at the same time? Probably. If you give enough, if it's like in a decent time in the year where they'll be able to do that. Why are you using a dragon weapon on her? Because I'm a one weapon type of person. Just let me live my life. Ow, that did well. Did you get sick of Moonveil? Moonveil was so bad. Man, I struggled using Moonveil. I felt that, like, I don't know, it sucked. And then that's why when I switched to the Rani weapon. But then what I kept finding was most bosses were, like they had immunity against magic. So I decided to go more simple. Firehouse too slow. I feel like this is a fight where you can't be close to him. Right? You didn't move from Ruined Greatsword, Malekith. I don't even know who Malekith is. I don't think I've versed it yet. Hello, Kita. I feel like my sword's been doing okay damage though. Oh, it's in the main game? I don't know the names of most characters in the main game anymore. heads at the full off. Audio glitch floor. What happened? Did something happen? I don't know. You think it was a game issue? Oh, okay. I didn't hear it. Is it fine? Okay. Oh my gosh. Terrible. What if I just use Tish? See how that goes. Ghost mushroom stuff to level the summons. Oh, I don't have like my summons is high. Wait, just the wrong button. Is at max level already. There's the DLC, like the DLC has its own leveling up stuff for them. But I haven't found any in a while. You find a few at the start. Dude. It didn't do any damage. Alright, are we ready? Let's bring out Tish. I'm glad that move tracks. Oh, I thought I dodged it. Expected. And then oh, that's a thing for once. Oh, new phase. Oh, we're not going to me, are we? I missed. Also missed. You can... it doesn't cover the whole map, which is good. Oh, okay, she's flying around now. She's gone. Wait, her sword is changed. It's no longer the thing. Oh, there it is. Okay, never mind. It really looked impressive, huh? Ugh, damn it. Jinx butterflies. Now I know what the second stage is. Yeah, it looks more like Melania if anything, but Melania, she was a centipede. Maybe it's meant to be a caterpillar. I don't know. Maybe it doesn't matter what it is. Ow. Would you let it crawl on you? No, it has a stinger. I've had butterflies crawl on me. Oh, damn it. I want to get rid of the Scarlet Rock. It's just like... not giving me any time. Oh. Alright. Whatever. Okay. I give up. Oh, I'm out of health. Dude, I'm useless. This is just not the run. Get rid of something that I already have. I mean, can't get one, like the other thing. Terrible. The run before that was a lot better. Did I? I missed one. Okay. Okay. She-Volt. Yeah, she has 2 phases. Most bosses do. I want to heal. So bad. Just me running. Alright, there we go, got a phase. It's best to stay out of that circle. Ow. Right. I still haven't gotten her. Oh. Alright, got her in midair. She was okay. Difficulty wise. I just do want to spend, like, I think I only spent half an hour on her. I didn't feel like spending that much longer. I don't know. I want to up, like, endurance, strength, and dex. That's what I've been focusing on. I also... I'm not even close to leveling up anymore. You get a remembrance, actually. Do you normally get those? I think you do. Yeah, that's what you get. Oh, you can't use your horse here. Okay. I don't remember what the remembrance was for. All the weapons? Oh, okay. Yeah, it says to take it to a finger reader. I saw that bit. Offer fire and let there be death. 0 appraisals. Am I meant to burn it? How do I burn it? Can't I just throw a fire pot or something? Like explosive stone. You need a special kind of fire. Oh, it's not just like regular fire? So do I just not have it yet? Okay. Okay, apparently it's an item. I keep forgetting you can't use a horse. See the tower from here. This one? It's kind of weird. I like how that black stuff kind of looks like it's... Like, I was like, oh, it's just... The shadow stuff, right? I thought it was just shaders not loading. Wait, is that... this area? Oh, okay. It's an interesting design. Well, I'm gonna walk back because this place is a maze, remember? I wanted to kill some stuff first. Go back to Shadowkeep. hard to break those skulls sometimes. Oh. Did nothing. This guy is like the thing I'm the weakest at. Out of all things. I don't think I had an issue with my other weapon either. Yeah, I do less damage with this weapon. Hello, Maltese girly! We're doing alright. Playing some Elden Ring at the moment. I'm just trying to get some runes and quickly level up. Ow. Shouldn't take long because these things give you a fair bit by this point. Do I go down there? No, there's an item over there. I haven't been. Oh, there's a few of them too. Boo! These guys kind of suck. They're a bit of a challenge. Can run in and run. It's probably what it's a blossom, so. Oh no, it's not. Oh wait, it's an ash. That's for your summons. Ow. Alright, keep on walking. What if they kept on chasing me? He still can hit me from here. Are you kidding me? He doesn't walk in the room, because it's like out of his range. Right, probably. Should be almost there. Yeah, all of them do that. They all think no one's home, the delivery drivers. You're like, ah, it's the middle of the day. People go to work. Drives me mental. How much do I need? Okay, I have plenty. Some of them do knock on the door, but it's like a tiny little knock, which we normally wouldn't be able to hear from upstairs. I now have a laptop for work, so I can, if I know I'm getting a delivery, I can go and sit down, like downstairs right next to the door. Just to be sure. Very good seat. Yeah, a lot of people work from home now. It's both me and my fiance do. Do I have a company Porsche that I can work at? No, I don't. I just work at the, like, we have a dining table. So I just go down there. That's the thing, like, ever since, like, people should be more expected of people working from home. Yeah, we haven't gotten one of those yet. I've thought about maybe just getting a cabra. The thing is, like, sometimes they show up at different entrances, so I don't know. There's not really an entrance that I can commit to where they're gonna show up. Alright, the keep. Here. Yeah, we'll head that way to the second floor. Which, I can't remember if I walked this way. It must have been this way. Weird, they know how to use fire. Dude. They're so aggro. Do I need an ember of mesmer? Is that what burns the trees? Okay, not in there. So I've already pretty much explored that first floor, so we don't need to do that again. These are not my favorite. They are. No, they don't. Like, everyone else is weak to my weapon, but these aren't. Not really. What the hell? I missed. I feel like the best thing I can do against them is jumping and heavy attacking. A beast one. It does. That's why I've slowly been upping my stamina. I feel like I don't go up from this side. There must be another staircase. Oh wait, there's a little feet here. Am I meant to walk on the feet? Oh, there's an item over there too. Hang on, let me wait for these guys. A dueling shield. What do they mean, behold door? Is there a lever? Lever? This place looks very cozy. It does, yeah. Behold troll. Ah, they never tell the truth. Lever. Which way is correct? I should see if I can find a grace. This feels very saucy. Ah, a grace. Oh dear. Oh my. Okay. I'm so worried. Storehouse cross message. Oh, I wouldn't jump. That would be... yeah. Okay, I went item crafting. Message left by Sir Barch, addressed to kindred spirits who also pursue Mikila's trail. It would seem that the people of the keep have flooded the holy quarter that leads onwards to the Erdtree, barring access. However, there is no route that leads there from the storehouse. Perhaps there is another way to reach the holy quarter from somewhere else in this keep. Aha. Excellent. Lovely. Hard words. I abandon here my arm dextral. See, what does that mean? Someone's abandoning their arm? Should I go in that room now? He abandoned his arm here. Guess it's like if only if you have a dot there do you have enough for a blessing, right? Okay. I knew this was gonna happen. Thoughts. Thoughts on how to jump. Why do they do this? There is a pile. You saw the bloodstain. Yeah, and you still did it. Well, yeah. Oh, there's an item there too. Oh my god, that means it falls. Do you see it? Okay. How stupid I did. How the frick do you jump on the rail? I have better luck just going to the other one. Yeah. You can't even jump on this table because it breaks. How do I feel to be a lemming? Fantastic. Really, really good. Oh. But if anyone has any hints on how to get that item, let me know. Oh, that hit me. it so well. Like, can you throw a knife at it, maybe? Why is it there? I will keep going. I will. Oh. Attacking these people who are just peacefully reading isn't important. Usually when it's like purple, it's a good item. That'll do. The stamina. No, well, maybe. Dude, where am I dodging? I need a stamina. There we go. Oh, there's also an item on there. Okay. Okay. So what's the point of being here? What do you mean I'll go back to the other graves? From here? Like, what was the point of that? Is it the fourth floor? First floor. First floor. Yeah. Alright. Wrong Grace? The new Grace? You said the other Grace. Oh. Okay, we're gonna go to the new one. It's a bloody item here. Shadow is the best way I could describe it. I I do not want to fight on the stairs, but I think it wants me to. Son of a... Ah! I hate him. I hate him so much. Oh, some bats. Didn't realize they were right behind me. You got one down and one here. Do we start from the first one first? Who knows? Okay, not a hidden path. What are secret rite scrolls? Learn about the secret rite of Divine Gateway. Let's see. Is that important? Okay, the scroll is important apparently. Is this... I'm trying to see, there has to be a way to jump down onto the head. But I don't think it's here yet. The way that I have to check every corner. The wide storage empty? I guess so. Damn it. They made me want to punch something! Far out! That's such a pain in the butt! No. But these are making me. I don't know if it stops following me. Maybe it does. I do have a stamina heavy sword, so it really stressed me out. Me. I've not missed out on a lot of rage. It also stops you from like, ugh. Yeah, weapon swapping's a thing in this game, but like, I don't. Boo. I'm not adventurous. I'm gonna switch my weapon just because these red guys suck. Ow. It was totally. Yeah, what have I raged on? My age is very mild. I wish it would come here. I have no health already. How did I roll? I have 2. Why the hell now? Name all HP. There's another one down there. Is there a grey city around nearby? Ah! How is it 4 in a row? Ugh. Nearby, okay. That one, yeah, I took care of that one. Is it on that floor or the next floor? A grace. Excellent.
Let me see. Fickle, fidgety little letters. I should wipe them clean off the page.
Who is this person?
Oh, hello. I'm afraid I'm busy. Curse upon my lack of foresight. I should have asked Ansbach to impart his knowledge when I had the chance. I'm afraid I'm busy.
Okay, they're just busy. Okay. It's Freya! Oh. I did not know. Well... Let's go. Who's talking? I'm not even kidding. Is it Freya? Sound like the same voice. I want to end stream. Where's stream after this silly little red thing? Oh, I thought this one does a fire. Oh, that one does something different. They all do something. That's cool. Yeah, I made it that time.
By my lord, will I ever make sense of this jumble?
I feel like if you heard that first without seeing her, it would have been like, what? Who? Hello? Oh no. Do not want to fight her again. Okay, good. Let's get another healing. Yeah, I know, she didn't sound like she was above you. Kinda weird. Level up if we can. Where is the red lady? $200? Oh, there she is. 220,000. Yeah, that one did a lot. It never does. Yeah, I just got the right angle. Have I been in here? Is this how I came in? There's an item down there, so I'm gonna say no. Oh, there's a lever! Now that everything's moved... Okay, so they've added... Okay, so now you can walk between them. Kinda. I thought... Yeah, I assumed that was what's gonna happen. I understand. I know less as to where the items went, though, but... Oh, you can reach that one from there now. Okay. I don't know where the item at the start is. If it's still on the ground, maybe. I heard that a lot of the review bombs are from China because of easy anti-cheat. I don't know how big of a portion are those people, but yeah. They don't have access to any forums, so the only way they can communicate that they don't like the game is in the Steam reviews. Yeah. So it might not necessarily be just like it's too hard, there is also probably other stuff. Do I even read reviews? No, the only time I ever read reviews or like watch reviews or anything like that is if it's a game that I'm probably not gonna play. That's the only time I care, because it's like, I'd rather not have someone else's review cloud my judgment on games, normally. If that makes sense. My health bar is not okay. What are you trying to say? What? I don't know how many I need. Oh, okay. A little over 1,000. Yeah, you kind of need it. I've been leveling up my stamina lately because I feel like I need that. But yeah, this game's been rough. I know, I've had a few people comment on the length of the health bar, but I'm comfortable with its size. I'm like, you know, I think that's a good amount. We can stop it right there. Just more stamina is what I'm being on. Yeah, that's why I've been upping stamina. I'm sure if I respec again, I'll fix those, but... Be doing the staminas. I have watched a few other people here and there, and I have noticed they might have a bigger stamina bar than me. That's what I've been thinking. Maybe my stamina bar is a bit short in comparison to other people. I need to add that to the quote pile. Oh, I missed it. Yeah, I got rid of all my int. Well, that's the thing. So I was using that Rani sword, which I did like. I liked the sword, but maybe it would have been a good sword for the base game. Not the DLC, because I kept running into issues with it. Where is it? You get what I mean, right? Oh, here it is. This one. But I keep running into issues with it.
By my lord, will I ever make sense of this jumble?
So I've been happy with this one mostly today. I actually felt good. Wait, there's arena? Or like, is there arena now? I'm gonna be streaming Smite 2 tonight, yeah. I probably won't be streaming on the TikTok. I'll just do Twitch. Isn't it live now? Oh, my plan, well, my head plan, it's already live, okay. Yeah, my plan was, Elden Ring in the afternoon, which is what I just did, and then Smite. Yeah, I didn't see anything about Arena, maybe later, like the later one. I should go up,
Lord,
but I want to eat.
will I ever make sense of this jumble?
How much, like, sometimes when you're like, you should do the next thing, and then the next thing takes me like half an hour. Five-man max. Okay, where's the... Do I have to fight this thing again? Oh wait, do I have to go on the platform? Not from here, from down, from the next level. Oh yeah. Elden Ring is running on max settings except for two things. I did turn off ray tracing because Aris said it does run like not that great with ray tracing and it doesn't really do that much anyway. And then like I know what ray tracing does, but it is one of those things where you don't notice it. You don't. Once you, like, it's great when you start off, and then after that you're like, okay, well, I don't notice it anymore. But you know, it has been great with the 40 series. I have been doing some freelance work, and I've been using After Effects for 2 weeks, and it didn't crash once. And when I was using After Effects before, it was crashing like 2 to 3 times when I'd be using it. Like I'd have to be like so careful with whatever I was doing. So yeah, I didn't realize it was actually my graphics card. Should I pay Maz? No, not specifically. I should, but yeah, like I think they just don't support it anymore, which sucks. And like the fact that it didn't crash once, it was amazing. Level up, right? Yeah, okay, let's jump on here. Oh. Oh. Okay, you could get back up. How the hell? Okay. We are very good at parkour. Am I meant to be on this thing? Because I don't think... There's no way to go from here, you know? You know? Is there another lever? Oh wait, over here. Over here, over here. Sorry, I just didn't notice this bit. Try killing it. No worries.
Lord, will I ever make sense of this jumble?
It never gets old. Okay, at least this person tells the truth. Why does this look like a boss? I thought you said 5 minutes. Hungry. Not really that hungry. But I do need to eat. Another one of those too. Why are you up there? Wait, am I not in the right area? Yeah, I don't believe in that
Will I ever make
intermittent
sense?
fasting, to be honest. Wait, is she on the other side of this? It seems like. Like, sure, like... I believe in not eating after dinner. And then eating in the morning. But I do not believe in, starving yourself. They eat only every 3 days? No. It's not healthy. Your body needs fuel. Like, just snack, man. I don't know, eat smaller meals. Yeah, exactly. I don't know. Anyways. You're a fragment. So for women, it is genuinely risky to be, like, intermittent fasting, you know. 'Cause you're gonna, like, screw yourself up. Yeah, I mean, that's fine. If you're skipping a meal, sometimes I have had days where I've accidentally forgotten to eat lunch. Because I would be busy working whatever I was doing, and then I'd be like, oh, it's already 4 o'clock. God damn it. Yeah, I don't know. But, like, because of the menstrual cycle, if you're gonna, like, starve yourself, like you do the intermittent fasting thing, it messes it up. But I would not recommend it. It's a little bit easier for men. Just have Greek yogurt, right? Yogurt's so good. Love yogurt. Is there a new Stardew update? I swear that game's always updating. By the way, what was the poll, DJ? Oh, you know why I be playing it? I keep seeing other people play it. And then I'll think, maybe I should try it again. And that was literally it. I didn't realize, like, there are updates, but I don't know what they are. There's so much to the game that I don't feel like I'm ever going to get to the updates. Yeah, lately I've been just trying to clean up my farm. Well, that's fair. I mean, I don't normally have time. I've just had 2 weeks of leave, so I played it. When I didn't know what to do, I just played some. Cause, yeah. Yeah, we can do the exploring later.